The Western Cape gang crisis is at fever pitch. The latest stats show nearly 100 people were killed in gang violence every month for the past 6 months alone. Families are shattered, police detectives are strained to capacity, and trauma doctors are burnt out. We give the ward home in Cape Town a face with journalist Lisalee Solomons next.
In this case, when this young boy was recruited into this gang, it was very fresh, very new, very fast. Somehow they knew about him because they had monitored him, and they had, tried to recruit him already from as young as 6 years old. Eventually, after showing him the money and what he can make in like just 10 minutes, drop quick, just to drop something off, which was a packet of what he said was dacha. He had to just drop that. And for that drop, which was literally like 3 streets away from where he lives, he had to drop that, come back and, tell them that, when I say them, I'm talking about the gangs
Right.
that he dropped the stuff for. He brought back the money, and the money that he brought back would then result in him getting 150 rand for that drop. Now you can imagine if you are dropping off firearms or drugs or ammunition for gangs, and you're getting paid 150 rand per drop, and you can basically do, let's say for example 50 drops a day. How much money are you making?
Yeah. Later in our training topic, with a win over Ghana under their belt, Bafana brace for a tough Afcon tournament in Morocco. And later in the show, on this day in South African history, South Africa heard its very first experimental radio broadcast.
New episodes of The Lead air Monday through Thursday at 7 p.m.
It's Thursday, it's nearly Christmas. Goodness, it's nearly 2026. My name's Graeme Rauby, this is The Lead, and this is the South African story. So often the human experience, the unimaginable pain, the faces, the people that can get left out of the story of the Cape Ganglands conflict. But to give these numbers a name, we're joined on the line now by our journalist, Lisalee Solomons. Thanks so much for your time, Lisalee. It's your debut edition of The Lead. How are you doing?
Hi, Graeme. Thank you so much for having me. I'm well. How are you?
Yeah, man. Can't complain. Look, it's end of the year, so this is our last sort of like lead edition where we speaking to the current news cycle, and there's been this fantastic series of investigations that you've done with your colleagues, Vulani Ludidi as well as Nicole McCain. Putting a face to the numbers that we often get with these police stats. The last quarter, 575 gang-related murders over the last, between April and September in the Western Cape alone. That number really taking up 90% of the figures in the Western Cape. But you have spoken to a lot of people on the ground. Take us to Leonsdale, specifically Bourne Road, earlier this month, where Angelo Diago was caught in the crossfire. What happened there?
So Angelo is the latest teen victim to have been caught in a gang crossfire within the Leonsdale area, which is nestled between, Ravensmead and Elsies River, predominantly infested with gang violence. Last week on Saturday, he had been in the area making his way to a friend's place when he had heard shots going off in close proximity from where he stays. And because his family, his aunt that he has quite a good relationship with, had explained to me that, he was a very curious person. He's always been, had a nose and an ear for conversations and for sounds. And whenever he heard something that was curious, he would put himself there and he would want to listen and figure out exactly, what the situation is all about. And this specific day, he had made his way to his friend, heard shots going off, and like any normal, curious person, especially in the Cape Flats, it's just something that, seems to be done on a regular basis. When they hear these gunshots going off, they run to the scene to see what's happening, And in this case, he had ran into the direction of where the shots were coming from, not knowing exactly that the gunmen were very close to where he was running to. And while he ran, these shots rang out, and he was unfortunately hit in the head. By one of those the bullets that was meant for rival gangs within that Leonsdale area.
Sure.
He died on the scene. Actually, when ambulances arrived, police arrived, his aunt said that, when it was about early in the morning, she was busy with the washing. And this young boy just ran to her and told her that Angela has been shot. And she said she dropped everything. And she called the husband, they got into the vehicle and they drove. They were literally just two streets, they lived 2 streets away from where the murder scene was. And she said when she got there, I mean, just the raw reality of seeing that it's her nephew laying there and that it's being loaded into the ambulance. And she said what stood out for her there was the fact that he was wearing the exact same T-shirt that she had bought him last month.
No, man.
I think it was as a gift, or just as a random when she goes to the shop, she buys normally clothes and she gives it to him, and he had worn that exact same T-shirt at the time of his shooting, and being loaded into the ambulance van. Half of the ambulance blanket was, I think it was the blanket or whatever they were covering him with, was halfway up. And that T-shirt spoke to her directly, because the minute she saw that T-shirt and she looked up at the face, she knew it was him, and she ran to the paramedics and said, "This is my nephew." And they informed her with the police at what had happened, and that he was declared dead and they are taking him away. And she said that it took her a moment just to realize, that it's her nephew. She had just spoken to him the night before, and within a couple of hours he's just gone. And she recalls that, during that morning specifically, after he had been visiting, or he had gone to visit, or was going on making his way to his friend, he was supposed to then come around to her house to come and get some. It's obviously Christmas time, and they're doing this gifts and all this, and he was also going to be helping, wrapping up gifts, especially when they have their family lunch. The family Christmas lunch, and he was supposed to come to the house that day specifically to come and get wrapping paper so that he can, when the gifts, start arriving at their house, he can just start wrapping. But now that has all just, come to naught. It's a moment that you don't wish upon any family, especially this time of the year.
Of course.
And for his aunt, Madeline Clausen, I think. I mean, her life will never be the same again, because he has no mother. Her sister, passed on a year ago. And she ultimately became, the big aunt, as she says, that looks after the boys. They're 3 brothers. Angela was the youngest. And he's gone in the blink of an eye. Yeah. All just for curiosity, eh?
And when we look at the stats, on average, it's estimated that 3 people within the months of April to September lost their lives to specifically gang violence in this very province at that time. Here is one of those. And then over in Hanover Park, you also bring us the story of little Kadir Boer, also shot dead, killed in Hanover Park, obviously an area that has been synonymous, unfortunately, with gang violence for the longest time, for countless decades. Take us to this particular story. 4 years old, a whole life ahead of you. He wanted to be a firefighter one day? Is that right, Lisalee?
Absolutely, a firefighter. Can you believe it? I mean, Graeme, when I speak to a lot of people, a lot of families, broken families in the Hanover Park area specifically, because I kid you not, there's so much stories in Hanover Park. And when I say stories, I speak about, families that have lost loved ones, that have lost their children, all their children to gang violence. I know one specific family also that I've spoken to over the years, all 3 children gunned down in Hanover Park, all at the hands of trigger-happy gunmen. So, I mean, when I speak to, like, for example, now, Qadir's family, he was 4 years old at the time when he was shot dead just outside his house. Where he was living in Hanover Park, and these just random shots were going off. It was at the time what police described as gang activity, and there was crossfires happening in that area, 2 rival gangs shooting against each other. Qadir had been playing outside. With stones, as kids normally do, play on the pavements, etc. And then the shots rang out, and according to his dad, just before that shots went out, there was a bit of quietness. And he says, and I still remember him saying it, because There was so much power in his voice when he said that. He said, when the streets go quiet in Hanover Park, you know danger's coming. You know the shots are coming. The gunmen are on their way, and it's going to rain bullets. And in that moment, he said to me that as soon as his child stopped throwing the stones, and he stopped, because they throw these stones against his poles, and you can still hear them playing, etc. And he said when he heard that stopping, and he heard the first round of gunfire going off, he ran down that council flat stairs. And when he got down to the bottom staircase, he saw his son laying there with the blood pumping out of his body.
Sure.
And I mean, it's difficult for me to even tell you this, because the way the way he relays it, he picked up the child, asked no questions, didn't look around where the gunmen are. He picked up his child and he ran with his child to the nearby day hospital. And he said to me, it's about a 50-minute drive from where he lives. But he said that run to the day hospital felt like hours, but he didn't care. He ran with his son in his arms, blood dripping down his arms, his legs onto the ground as he ran. And he said, he kept telling his son, don't worry, the firefighters are going to come tomorrow. You must just pull through for daddy when we come home. I'm going to get you a sucker, and we're going to get the fire people to come here, and you're going to see the trucks. Just to keep him alive, man. And just all that effort just for him to have not have made it, because the bullets were pierced so deeply into his brain. The swelling was so bad that there was no ways that doctors could have saved his life. Yeah. And that father is broken. I mean, it's very seldom, that you see a man that emotional and tearful. But I is one of the case studies that, speaks to the sadness that fills Hanover Park, the dangers that fills Hanover Park, and the relentlessness of these gunmen who think nothing of firing shots, even if they are young children in the streets.
Yeah, and with no signs of abating, what really sticks with me is that there's this other half of Cape Town, Lisalee, that, because they're not seeing it, they're not experiencing it on a daily basis. It's almost impossible I feel, for some people to even empathize with the situation, because it's out of sight, out of mind. They don't need to deal with the constant reality of it. And yet, year in, year out, this is indeed the constant reality for not only Hanover Park, but as we've just relayed to that, the story of Alces River as well. We've known for a long time very young children are recruited into gangs. And we understand that recruitment happens in the latter part of the year. So from after winter into summer, there are these normal sort of, I say normal in inverted commas, of cyclical sort of gang recruitment drives. Children as young as 6 now is the norm. And you especially interviewed a young boy that goes obviously by the name of B. We're not naming him. What did you learn out of this and how the recruitment happens? I can imagine it doesn't take an awful lot, given the level of poverty and the socioeconomic issues that are plaguing many of these suburbs, for young kids to be lured into something that gives them a casual purpose, at least for now.
So just to add on to that, Graeme, the reason why we're not going to be naming this young boy is because he's a teenager. He's 14 years old. And obviously, we don't name kids in situations like this. So with this young man, he was recruited into a gang within the Hanover Park area. Just based on the fact that he, according to him, is fast and he gets the job done. So you have these gangs that recruit these youngsters. I mean, they're as young as 6 years old, if you can even imagine.
I can't wrap my mind around it, genuinely. I can't.
It's mind-blowing. I mean, it's mind-blowing.
When I was 6, I was running around the block in Bellville when I was 6, Lisalee, and the joys to enjoy that privilege, hey?
My goodness me. It should not be normal, eh? This should not be normal, Graeme,
No.
for kids to be involved in such activities, man. It's become norm. These kids don't even think that there's anything wrong with it because they've been waved with money, with they've been bribed with money, they've been showered with gifts, that their parents can't unfortunately buy them, because of the social ills in a lot of these Cape Flats areas. And here you have these gangs that have been portrayed as, living the soft life, wearing expensive clothing, driving expensive cars, chains. I mean, gang members are, if it's bizarre. That this is what youngsters are idolizing. But back to this young man that's involved, as a runner, what you would call them, that runs around and does basically the work, on behalf of these gangs, specifically the gang bosses that put out, instructions, etc. This young boy was recruited at a very young age, into this gang, into working with them. They bribed him, well, not bribed him, they gave him the picture that there was, there's money involved here. It's just a quick drop here, a quick drop there. When I talk about the quick drops, it's your drugs, your firearms, your ammunitions, picking up drugs, picking up ammunition, dropping them off, taking them wherever they need to go. And because it's very seldom that youngsters when I talk about youngsters, I talk about like your 6-year-olds up until you're probably 13, 14, 15-year-olds. It's very seldom that they get stopped by the police or searched by the police, unless the police knows that you are, a problem child and that you are involved with gang activity. In this case, when this young boy was recruited into this gang, he was very fresh, very new, very fast. Somehow they knew about him because they had monitored him, and they had, tried to recruit him already from as young as 6 years old. Eventually, after showing him the money and what he can make in like just a 10-minute drop quick, just to drop something off, which was a packets of what he said was dacha. He had to just drop that. And for that drop, which was literally like 3 streets away from where he lives, he had to drop that, come back and, tell them that, when I say them, I'm talking about the gangs,
Right.
that he dropped the stuff for. He brought back the money, and the money that he brought back would then result in him getting 150 rand, for that drop. Now you can imagine if you are dropping off, firearms or drugs or ammunition for gangs, and you're getting paid 150 rand per drop, and you can basically do, let's say, for example, 50 drops a day. How much money are you making?
Yeah.
So these gangs they're smart in how they try and recruit these youngsters, and these youngsters are falling for it, and that's how he fell for it. He fell into this trap of money, of promises of name brand clothes, a hoodie that he had wanted for a very long time, a name brand hoodie. Redbat. I'm sure a lot of our readers, or listeners would probably know about the brand Redbat. And he was one of those youngsters that loved his brands, and the gangs promised him the brands, and he got their brands. And it took him dropping drugs and firearms and ammunitions at areas that are prone to violence and gangs, for him to just go and drop that, and they also just come and just bring that back and get the money.
Unbelievable. Really struggle to get my head around it, because it's just not an experience that is lived in my lifetime, and I'm assuming neither is it for yours, Lisalee. The Trauma Centre, as part of the reporting from the team and our colleagues Villani as well as Nicole, have given an extra little bit of context here. Children as young as 10 carrying firearms are being recruited into gangs, and girls, which is also something that seems obvious but is sad to recognize as a fact, that young primary school girls, pre-teens, who come from unfortunate backgrounds, whether that's poverty or trauma or abuse at home, are also being recruited into these gangs as quote-unquote girlfriends. Really sad as this cycle continues to eat up lives, continues to perpetuate the the worst out of all of this. You know, it's something that we don't often see when it comes to the reporting of Cape gang violence. What does an average day look like for a school pupil? You spoke to a grade R teacher at Yellowwood Primary in Eastridge. Take us through what happens, for example, when gunshots ring out, because that's now a weekly occurrence.
So that was quite an interesting one also. I mean, I think a lot of our readers engaged quite a lot on that specific story. So just to paint a picture, Yellowwood Primary is a school situated within the Mitchells Plain area in Cape Town. Mitchells Plain is predominantly known for its gang violence, as well as recruitment of these youngsters into gangs. And this school is situated in the heart of one of the prominent gangs within the Beacon Valley area. And it just so happened that on this one specific day earlier this year, the school was going on as normal. There was learning taking place. And within the matter of just an hour after school had started, the school started at 8 o'clock. And an hour after the school started, the bells rang out. And this is not a normal bell, a bell ringing. This was a bell ring that tells you there's a code 39. And in terms of a code 39, I just get goosebumps thinking of this. A code 39 at Yellowwood Primary is basically there's danger. Drop to the floor right now because there's gunshots going outside of the school. And when that bell rang out, the kids in all of the classrooms had to stop whatever they were doing and drop to the floor because the gunshots were going chaotic from what the teachers were saying to me at the time. And all of these kids dropped to the ground, specifically this one class that had these youngsters that were busy reading. It was reading time at the time when these gangs were causing this chaos outside the school. And when this bells rang out, the teacher said, Saneed Majid, she said that everybody should drop to the ground and lay flat. And she had crawled away to where her laptop was to get to that laptop, play some Moana music. And Graeme, I kid you not, while this was going on, and you can just picture how frightened these kids were. They're on the ground, they're watching the teacher crawl to the table, just to play some music, so she can bar out the sounds of the gunshots that are ringing right outside of her classroom. And she said to me at the time, it's something that is unheard of. It is something that is so scary. Just relaying it to me was difficult for her to even explain, because under no circumstances should any child, be privy to that, be privy to hearing those gunshots ringing out. And she said the scaredness of those kids were testament to the fact that these gangs have instilled so much fear amongst everyone. It's hard to even use music to block out the shots ringing outside of the house. Outside of the school.
This is like movie stuff. This is like a scene.
It's like movie stuff.
It's like that, that tropey sort of like stereotypical 1990s American, high school in the Bronx type of story. But except it's not. It's reality. It's happening literally down the road from us.
Absolutely. Graeme, one of there's a crime activist quite known in Cape Town for the Cape Flat Safety Forum, A.B. Isaacs.
Yes, a legend. He's been around for ages.
Yes. And I mean, he can tell you, what's happening on the Cape Flats. He knows a lot of stuff. Especially when it comes to the shootings of his youngsters, man. And he said to me at the time when that video was going out, he's like, this is a perfect example of you don't need Netflix, you don't need Showmax, you don't need movies to depict what's happening in the Cape Flats. I mean, this right here, what we are living through, what a lot of our crime, because most of these crime activists are living in these gang-infested areas, so they know what's happening. And they can paint you a picture of, what's been happening and what has been happening and still happening on the Cape Flats. And the fact that these schools are now implementing, these safety measures when gang fights are taking place is already, it's mind-blowing to know that this is now the type of safety measures that schools have to put in place to safeguard their learners.
Sure. Now, just to end off, I thought I'd just relay some of the other coverage from the team, specifically in the War at Home series. The News 24 team spoke to Dr. Hendrik Latergan at Tygerberg Hospital, speaking about how easily these doctors can burn out at this time of the year. The trauma burden is just so intense. And of course, we saw during the COVID-19 pandemic just how when, the lockdown happened, suddenly these hospitals had a reprieve, a relief period, and they couldn't believe just how tired a lot of the staff were at the time once they had their break. We've heard this from our current acting police minister, Feroz Kachale, before. He's essentially acceded that the SAP's current plan to fight gang violence isn't necessarily paying off. It's back to the drawing board, it seems, especially with all the politics coming out of the Madlanga Commission and where we find ourselves regarding solutions. What happens there next? We know that the SAPS now in the Western Cape is offering detectives 1,000 Rand allowances. So any investigating officer that has a docket open, they can now get an extra 1,000 Rand allowance. These are things that have sat on my mind for a long time. I remember covering a case of cops that were arrested for allegedly smuggling drugs out of OR Tambo International Airport, Lisalee, and to hear what they were earning every month for the work that they have to do, it sounded like, I can now understand why they eventually allegedly become corrupt, is because it's easier money to get at the end of the day. These guys aren't being paid an awful lot. 15,000 Rand salaries when you're a sergeant, it's really a pittance when they have to put their life on the line. So the SAPS is now finally recognizing that. And then when it comes down all to it, millions are being shelled out for the anti-gang unit, and you have people like former top cop Jeremy Very, who's very much senior. He's somebody who's still quoted a hell of a lot in the coverage of the Madlanga Commission. He's coming out and say, hey, perhaps detectives are really the answer at the end. How are we upskilling our detectives to fight gang violence on the ground? Because, they're sitting with caseloads of up to 200. We also know the NPA needs a lot more people on board to ensure that prosecutions happen and that these people get put behind bars for a hell of a long time still. What else to expect in the Ward Home series? Do we have more coverage coming out over the next couple of days?
Yes, we do. I mean, it's been doing really well. A lot of people have been engaging with our gang war project. And I speak from experience that, these types of stories it's always hard, to understand what is actually happening in these on the Cape Flats areas. But I mean, if you're reading about it and you picture, exactly what the lives are of those living in these areas, I mean, it's something that you cannot even fathom happening to yourself. But there are so many people this is their daily life. So for a lot of our readers that have been engaging on our specific gang war project, I mean, a lot of them, have come out and have also said, that there must be done. There must be more that must be done to combat this gang violence. The SAPs are not doing much. They are not doing enough to curb it. So our next few articles that will still be coming out will also just be diving deeper into where the gangs actually all started from. What is the future like? Are we going to see more gangs, taking up the realms? Are we going to be seeing more youngsters taking the realms of? I mean, as bizarre as that sounds, are we going to be seeing, more of these youngsters now doing more hardcore jobs? And when I talk about more hardcore jobs, I talk about more unfortunate crime incidents that results in the loss of lives. Are we going to be seeing what's going to be happening to them, or do they take the realms of the gang leaders? So we dive a bit more deeper into what next for the young, out of control youngsters that are still, at the mercy of these gangs.
It's a more than 200-year-old problem. I'll never forget that quote from one of the crime experts here in the Western Cape from a couple of years back. His name escapes me at this point, but I remember that being schooled that it's more than 200 years old. Can you think about that? And of course, this from a historical perspective, South Africa's history of violence has done us no favors when we look at the darkest days of apartheid, colonialism, etc., etc. So, I mean, we'll need a whole nother podcast for that. Okay, so
Absolutely.
you are not aware of this, Lisalee, but I'm doing this with all of my guests to end off the year. You can't escape it. It's called Rauby's Round Robin. It's 10 carefully editorially picked questions that I'm going to throw at you. You got to answer them as effectively as possible. They're fun, they're flippant, but they're mostly news related. Are you ready?
All right, let's go.
I know what you're going to answer for number one. What's the one South African scandal or story or mysterious story that you still want answers to in your lifetime, Lisalee?
Sure. Are we ever going to solve gang violence?
Great.
Is it ever going to be something that's, that the police are actually going to get under control? They claim to have it under control, but I mean, the number speaks differently.
If you could put one politician on airplane mode for a month, who would it be?
Gayton McKenzie.
That's 2 now for Gayton, out of all the interviews that I've done. Look at that. Anyway, which press conference in 2025 emotionally hurt you the most?
Oh, I think it would have to be the Mkonazi one. I mean, what he done and what he said, resulted in us being here with the commission. So I think he did a bold move, despite the harsh feedback, criticisms he got online. I think that move that he did it paved the way for a lot to unravel inside the criminality that's taking place in the country.
Here's your toughest question yet. Who's your favorite News 24 colleague? You got to be biased.
Graeme, that's going to be a tough one, eh? That's going to be.
I need
an
answer. I need an answer. I'm sorry. This is for journalistic purposes, Lisalee.
My favorite colleague, and I'm going to get a lot of slack for this, but okay, the favorite colleague has got to be Marvin Charles.
Wow. Absolutely. Okay. Interesting. Adrian,
we've come a long way.
Our editor-in-chief, Adrian Besoden, said our local barista, Freeman, was his colleague of the year. How's that, eh?
Oh, wow. I can understand why, though. I think Freeman is everybody's favorite.
But yeah,
keeps us sane.
Marvin is a man. She's a great guy to have in the office. What's the one story in South Africa this year you felt that deserved the Netflix docu-series treatment?
Oh, absolutely. The one of the matric boy in Mitchell's Plain. They gets up at 4:00 to be at the town centre, taxi rank, at 5:00 to start selling his sweets so that he could pay for his own matric ball. He wanted to raise 10,000 rand. He wanted to help his mother, who's a pensioner, just give him the best matric ball. And he knew that she didn't have the funds, and he took it upon himself to use his Christmas money of last year, buy his sweets and sell them continuously on a daily basis at 4:00, 5:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
At the town centre for 2 hours. And then he gets onto a bus and goes back to school, comes back, sells his sweets again, and then makes his way home at 6:00 in the evening. I mean, that is tenacity. That is braveness. That is just, that story still speaks to me. It's fantastic.
Yeah. That's an Mzansi hustle, hey? That's
absolutely.
You can't teach that.
A simple sweet, eh?
Yeah, absolutely.
You cannot.
Which South
So Rudolph Lekay, I think his story speaks to me. It's a story that also got a lot of people speaking. If you would, Graeme. I mean, it was a feel good that you guys, even you, spoke quite a lot on. So I'm happy it got people talking. I'm happy it got the politicians to jump on board and buy sweets from this kid. For the police even rallying out to buy sweets from this kid to help him make his dream a reality. So there's power in the media and there's power in these good news stories that we tell.
Yeah, you did an absolutely excellent job on that story and bringing it to life. I really appreciate it. Okay, which South African song would be the soundtrack to your journalism career thus far?
In 2019, when the Springboks won the Rugby World Cup, they obviously did a tour around the country with the trophy, etc., just to thank the fans, etc. And they came to Cape Town, and I was part of a group of journalists that was at the parade, the Cape Town parade, CBD parade in the CBD, where the Springboks and thousands rugby fans came out and flooded the CBD just to get a glimpse of the Springboks, specifically Siya Kolisi and Cheslin Colby. And right just after Siya and Cheslin lifted the trophy up at the stage that was erected there at the parade. They had jumped off the stage and ran towards the crowd or the police were obviously shielding from coming over into the streets that was cornered off. And they ran and they, just touched everybody's hands, took selfies, took photos, etc. And the song that played out that got the mood even singing, and more jovial and just alive with possibilities, man, was when the DJ played Black Coffee's Come Again. And it was a moment that, just speaks volumes, because here you have the South African team, the winning rugby team, here with us. You have your captain that is just, basically an idol in everybody's eyes. And you have Cheslin Colby here running and greeting fans with the rest of the teams. And here you have a South African DJ, as a soundtrack to that momentous moment.
Next question. Okay, Black Coffee is getting a huge shout out. If you were forced to embed with one government department for a year, which one do you think you would survive the longest in?
Probably, much as I would like to have Gated McKenzie quiet for a while. I mean, I think the arts, sports, and culture department would probably.
That's my one as well. I'll see you there, colleague. You have one wish for South African journalism in 2026. What is it?
Oh man, just less crime, less bloodshed, less gunshots. Just less violence, man. I think I speak for a lot of journalists. I think we are tired of of covering all of these murders, these crimes, these horrific rapes, especially on these Cape Flats areas, or not just the Cape Flats, but I speak about nationally also. It's draining, and I'm sure, Graeme, you would also understand, that as a journalist, it's very difficult to have these conversations with families, especially
100%.
Hours after the children or their loved ones' bodies have just been found, lifeless on the pavement or on a train station or somewhere, and now especially if it's a well-known person, and now you have to rush to the scene and get comment from that family. I mean, it's just crime is just, it's horrific, man. And I think we've reached now levels now where we just want peace. We don't want this unnecessary shootings, unnecessary killings. For what, man? I mean, taking a life, it's just senseless. There is no crime. There is no situation so bad that warrants you to take somebody else's life. And I think we've seen a lot of that over the past few years. And I really hope and pray that next year, we just see a downer in these horrific killings.
Yeah. All Lisalee Solomons wants for Christmas is?
All I want is just a new blow dryer, because this hair is just problematic.
I hope the significant others are listening, nah? The family and the friends. I hope they're listening. Getting hints.
I hope so too.
And then fill in the blank. South Africa will be officially okay when?
When the ANC is out of power.
Sure. That's a very strong way to end the show.
Whether that will happen, Graeme, I mean, that is a podcast for another day.
100%. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for relaying the so important, critical stories that often get overlooked. We're not just numbers living in this world. All of us have histories and backgrounds and stories to tell. And I really appreciate you bringing that onto the show. It's our very first edition together. It's edition 152, and we finally got you on. I know that you did the Jocelyn Smith trial for the longest time, and obviously we wanted to have a chat there, but it's been such an extensive year, and I remember by the time the lead came on board, we wouldn't have done it justice. There's just so much intricacies within that story. It stays with you for such a long time, and I can't imagine you must still feel that way. There's still so many questions, still so many avenues of thought that you go down and think about with regards to that story as well. But Lisalee Solomons, thank you so much for your time on the lead. I really do appreciate it, and a warm and lovely 2026 to you and yours.
Thank you, my darling, and right back at you and to all of our readers as well.
Trending topic.
To our trending topic now, and with a 1-0 win over Ghana in Dobsonville, Bafana are now jetting off to Morocco for their first Africa Cup of Nations match against Angola this coming Monday night. Our very own Tashreeq Vardien will be following the boys every step of the way.
24 nations vying for one title. We are Bafana grouped alongside Angola, the mighty Egypt, as well as neighbour Zimbabwe. And with Bafana playing their first match on Monday, it's going to be an incredibly serious fixture that they have to, without question of a doubt, they have to get 3 points to start off the tournament on the right foot. Especially after what happened at last year's edition, where they kicked off the campaign with a 2-0 defeat to Mali. However, Bafana are on a 25-match unbeaten streak, and they are looking in good nick for this tournament going in. We have some fantastic players in that setup, starting from the top. The leader himself, Ronwen Williams, former Africa goalkeeper of the Afcon tournament last year, as well as, someone that has proved over time just how brilliant he can be between the sticks, especially if I remember back to last year in that penalty shootout against Cape Verde. He was the hero, and I think he's going to be one of the most important players. And specifically speaking about important players, we have to Tebogo Mokoena as well, in the middle of the park, who is just a rock-solid midfielder that you can rely on. He played all the games of the last season's tournament, and once again, he will be a very important component for head coach Hugo Broos in hopefully, reaching a semi-final spot and then getting to a final once again, which will be their third final. And what I will say lastly is that if they do make a final, they will be 16 days shy of the 30th anniversary of the first title they won in 1996. So it's a good omen to have. So hopefully Bafana can see this one through.
Happy with Bafana's run of form? Drop us a voice note 072 562 3179.
And finally,
ending off now with On This Day in South African History. That's the 18th of December 1923. Well, on this very day, South Africa heard its very first experimental radio broadcast. The transmission took place in Johannesburg. It featured a live music concert broadcast by the Western Electric Company. It marked the official birth of radio in this country. Now, from that single experiment, radio has grown into a powerful national medium spanning public, commercial and community stations. By the way, I think it's still going very strong, if you ask me. Today, around 30 million South Africans tune in every single day using traditional radio sets as well as mobile phones, computers, streaming online. A century on, radio remains one of the country's most trusted and accessible sources of news, music and connection, and is now in the form of a podcast as well. Very privileged to have been part of the radio journey and the podcasting journey in South Africa as we know it. Just a reminder, next week and the week after that, expect just 3 editions per week of The Lead. This will be our final end-of-year content, wrapping up the biggest stories from the year that was. So look out for interviews from our sport editor, Lloyd Bernard, all the way through to Jeff Wicks on Vusi Musi, Kat Matlala. They're going to be humdingers, and of course they can't escape Rauby's round robin either. My name's Graeme Robenheimer. So long as there's trusted news first, we'll always have The Lead.